Hi, I'm Vivian from Cheng Cheng Films. We are a film distributor based in New York City, and we specialize in bringing Chinese language films to North America. And our current film selection includes films like The Great Buddha Plus, Send Me to the Clouds, Cross Current, Soulmate, and etc. And today we are lucky to invite David Wilentz, one of the programmers of New York Asian Film Festivals, to have a chat with us about how to make fried chicken. And I hope you are prepared for that.
Thank you for having me, Vivian.
No problem. So actually we're going to talk about the organization of New York Asian Film Festival and the landscape of Chinese language cinema in the US. So stay with us. So first, David, can you tell us in one sentence to those who are not familiar with New York Asian Film Festival what it is?
Sure. New York Asian Film Festival, affectionately known as NYAFF sometimes, is the premier festival of Asian cinema held annually in New York. And it's been, okay, that's in one sentence.
Okay.
And to elaborate, it's been going into our 19th year, I believe. Yeah.
19 years, wow. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like an old film festival.
At this point it is, but it's always kind of young at heart. It really, in its history, was known for bringing lots of wild, unbefore-seen kinds of films from Asia. Even if it was from mainstream Asian cinema, here it was viewed as kind of wild. So it really made its mark and has, I think that's why it's lasted so long.
Yeah, and NYAFF also played two of Cheng Cheng films, do you remember? Soulmate and She Remembers, He Forgets.
Wait, which one? Oh,
Soulmate and She Remembers, He
Soulmate,
Forgets.
yes. That's right. To be honest, wait, when did we play, what is it? He Remembers, She Forgets? Because I think that was before I was programming.
Oh, okay. So you've been working for NYAFF for 3 years.
I've been working as a programmer, so I started in the end of 2016. I've been friends with the festival since before they started. When I think in 1999, those guys got together, and one of the first things they did was an old school kung fu film festival. And that, when I saw that, I reached out to them and said, "Oh, this is really cool. I'm into old school kung fu films. Let me help you put up flyers and stuff like that." And I did, and I got to know them over the years, and I volunteered at the festival over the years. And then I was also working in the film industry, and then at some point, the staff at the festival was changing a little bit or rotating or whatever. And finally, 3 years ago, the current director of the film festival, who I've known for about a decade, said, "Hey, we'd love to have you as a programmer." So I said, "Oh, that's
it's
awesome."
an invitation.
Yes, he invited me.
Okay.
He said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, 1,000%.
Wow, cool. Then what are the workload and timeline you put every year for such a festival?
Right, so since I've been there, it seems to start right around this time of year, or a little before this, when the Busan Film Festival happens. And all of us go there.
Okay.
And there's a film market there, the Asian film market, so between the festival and the market, we're able to meet up with sales agents, find out about new films and stuff. So that's where it seems to be the starting point. And then from that point on, we're watching a lot of screeners, and then there are other festivals that some of the other programmers will go. I usually only go to Busan because I'm usually busy and not able to travel as much.
Okay.
And then the workflow is we're watching screeners and talking about them. We make a big list of we'll make a list of all the Asian films that comes across our radar. It doesn't matter what kind of film it is. It might look like a really cheesy, very sugary film, or it might look like very esoteric or whatever. Anything that we think is worth considering or even knowing about, and then we narrow down from there.
Then to you, what do a programmer of a film festival do?
Sure. So apart from watching the films, there is, well, one of the things we do is writing blurbs about the films. So for example, we have a program guide or for online, and so we have to come up with some description of the film. What else do we do as programmers? It's a good question. I guess we have to consider a lot of aspects of why we would show a film, and of course, generally speaking, we want to show a film that we think is good for whatever reason, but then there's a lot of other factors to consider.
Okay.
And then, of course, creating a schedule, which I've done. What I have not has been involved in, but I have had my hand in it a little bit. There's also inviting guests, and this is sort of like the films we come up with guests to invite, and we'll come up with blurbs for the guests and things like that. I'm making it sound really easy, but I guess it's a little more involved. It's hard to say. I guess one really important thing, at least, so at NYAFF, one thing that is important to know is we're a curated film festival. We're not submission based, so generally we don't take submissions. So exactly. So like I mentioned before, we're looking at stuff. We're looking online, or we're looking through sales agents, or we're looking from friends that are producers, or whatever the things that we know, or looking at festivals, finding things that way. And then we're a team, so we strongly believe in teamwork, and so we have to work together and figure out, shape the festival together.
Then what happens when your colleague programmers disagree with each other?
So I think we're a pretty good team, and our director has a very sense of, what's the word? A democratic sort of organization. Like he really believes that, in a committee, and then, in other words, just because he doesn't want to do it, why am I having a committee if I'm going to veto everyone? Okay. So if someone doesn't agree, certainly, I've been in a situation where I like something and I was the odd man out, and they're like, well, we don't really want to show. I'm like, okay, you just guys give up. Okay. And I've been on the other end too, where we're one person who wasn't really into it, but we outruled them.
So you don't fight?
Generally, I'm pretty peaceful.
Okay, cool. That's nice. So now let's talk a little bit about money. So
money?
How does NYAFF survive financially?
Sure. Okay. So cultural organizations support us big time. So, for example, we work with Hong Kong and Korea and Chinese organizations for funding. That helps with all the various things we do. Without their help, and this is the point, we need to say thank you on stage when we introduce a film to these organizations, because without them we wouldn't be able to bring these cool events and films.
That's cool. And what about ticket sales? Can you talk about that?
Well, ticket sales as a festival or any exhibition these days, these kind of films, international films, art house. It's hard to make money. I can tell you that much. So people, when people, think, oh, you make the most money in the box office, it's impossible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the best part about organizing a film festival?
For me, seeing lots of films, that you really like, or just getting a chance to be exposed to them. I also like the curatorial aspect of, like I mentioned before, working together to shape a salient festival. It's interesting every year when you start picking films, or you go Korean films, and sometimes almost subconsciously, various themes, because whatever the films that are available, you'll see some common themes evolving. Maybe you'll see a certain kind of film evolving along Japanese cinema or Chinese cinema, and that's really interesting. But just for me personally, tangibly, is watching all the films and being excited about them and being proud to show them.
Yeah. Then what's the worst part?
Sure. So I'd say the worst part would be when something doesn't go right. For example, a guest at the last minute cancels, or a film is canceled.
Why films are canceled?
So in the last few years, there have been a lot of issues with Chinese films where they make a film and then for whatever reason it's not allowed to be shown, or they have to cancel it, or they have technical problems, so the movie can't be shown.
So that has already affected NYAFF.
That has affected NYAFF because we, in the last several years, our Chinese lineup keeps growing and growing. There's a lot of strong cinema coming out of mainland China. Of course, Chinese language cinema across the board, I think, but there's a lot of mainland Chinese production is pretty big now. So it becomes tricky, because sometimes you're waiting to the last minute, because even the producers, they don't know if they can grant you the rights to show the film. So So I'd say, I guess the worst things is when something falls through.
Okay. And do you usually have backup plan to deal with that kind of situation?
I'd like to say yes, but I can't say necessarily all the time we have a backup plan, but we make it work somehow. Something, we come up with something.
Cool.
无窗号味道, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Taiwan pork chop house.
That's good.
This is their fried chicken.
Yeah.
I never had their fried chicken before. I had pork chop and what else? Last time I went there, we had rogan tang, which is hard to find here. It still doesn't taste the same as in Taiwan.